Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
like this thing. This is definitely my favorite drum of all the drums. It's a brilliant idea. Just like, I don't know, people. It's just basically a broken vase. You couldn't really keep water in it, but it's awesome. I don't know. So how you guys doing? Welcome to Neuropa. I'm Andreas. Martin's with us. Beautiful, illustrious Martin. In the middle of you were saying you're doing some important stuff this week, trying to make sure that you're ready for sales and for doing your work.
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah. Raph, also, you've been trying to prepare for something, or what? You got a bunch of things you were going to show us. What have you been up to? Oh, you know what I also didn't do? I didn't send this link to Jim. We should probably have invited him. We should do that next time. Poor Jim. But you're muted. Matt Raff, you're muted.
Muted I am. Here I am. So yes, we should totally do that. I have no idea if he's online, but...
It's early for him, probably. We'll see, yeah. I didn't even think to do it.
Where's he at?
Yeah, is he in Colorado, or is he back?
He is in somewhere in the countryside.
Zero idea. Okay. I'm sending it to you, Jim. In case you're awake, we remembered you. We remembered you as soon as I saw Ralph's face. Okay.
I can't believe I haven't been in the States since 2017. That's going on 6 years now.
Dude,
Holy cow.
I can't believe it was 6 years ago. It was 2017. It's so crazy how long ago things were.
I've been there for the eclipse. You know,
yeah.
Spent time in Kentucky with my best friend there. And so we were out there in the fields and watched the eclipse. It was awesome.
Yeah, the solar eclipse was really cool too. I think that the last time I was in Germany was, like almost 10 years ago now. So it's also, so it's super crazy. 2012 or 13 or no, maybe 2015, 2016. I did go to Denmark and I was very close, but I didn't actually go to Hamburg in 2018. So I got really close again, but I didn't go recently. And it's weird because I remember also, I think the first time I went to Germany and Austria was 1999. And the differences between 1999 and 2001 and 2003 and things changed so dramatically in just a couple of years. The way things used to be from 1999 when people used the marks, and all of a sudden, God, what a weird world.
Was funky for me because I came to the States in 1997. And I did not come back until 2008. So the whole mark to euro thing, I missed it, So
wow. Yeah, that'd be great. That's like your whole culture conquered right there. Is your money system. It was different. I mean, also because, it felt like a thing. You in any part of Europe, you're like, well, what's this place worth? Based on the mark is, $50, but that's still way more than a franc, so you're thinking in these kind of 6 of this or 5 of that, but only 2 marks and it's just the practicality of it. I mean, that whole logic disappeared, but also it felt like there was a metric of value associated with what part of Europe you were from because of what the value. Yeah,
absolutely. And also the Austrian shilling was 7 shillings was 1 mark, and that stayed like that throughout the ages, so you could rely on that.
Dude, I mean, this is kind of tangentially German. World War 2.0, Germany declaring war on Russia. You've heard about all this kind of thing. How do you feel about this? You guys, you pay more attention to history than some Germans do. But if you guys remember, it was a bad thing last time Germany declared war on the whole war. And, but I mean, this is justified, right? Because Putin's bad. So, I mean, we should just go along with it, right? Or what? I don't know. This is crazy. What do you think?
It is absolutely crazy what's happening there right now. If you ask my personal opinion, I would say the majority of Germans do not think this is a good idea, even though they send us fake polls, of course, suggesting the opposite. But we are in a very special situation anyway, because we are still in the UN Charter. We are still the enemy state. We do not have a peace treaty, so we are still at war technically at war, or have an armistice with 52 nations on this world. It's us and Japan. And if you ask my opinion, even just sending weapons over would be enough, or would have been enough. But now we are training Ukrainian soldiers, and now we are sending heavy equipment back there. So it's crazy. What our politicians are doing is absolutely crazy.
Well, it's also funny because they said that this was, this is why the Power Rangers that exist, because the Germans and the Japanese are not allowed to fight. Basically, they've made these crazy rules that everyone sort of accepted, but it's been about 100 years now.
Yep.
And clearly things are changing. Japan's already getting ready for military. They've militarized in a lot of ways. They've changed and nationalized a lot of ways. Germany, it's the epicenter for a lot of the American military. We've taken over your bases in a lot of ways, but German bases are still German bases. I've known a lot of guys who've been in the German military because it's practical. Spend a couple of years in there, you learn a lot of skills, but it's not because your military was, and you knew your military wasn't going to be used for certain things because it was basically internationally sanctioned and illegal. So everything's shifting right now. Germany and Japan are becoming militarized. What repercussions do you see? I mean, Russia is pretty ready to fight against Germany again, right? I mean, they have created propaganda against Germany more than Hollywood has, which is saying something, right? It's all the Germans' fault that we had to do all this.
Yeah. At least they're trying to make it look that way, but I don't think it's the Russians that try to make it look that way.
True. I have seen though that, like, in police state content, though, that they try to say we're not the fascists, we're the Russians. Look at what Germany did to us. And so it seems like it's putting Germany in a place to look like the bad guy for the rest of the allies fighting. They're going to say, oh, well, really, it's Germany's fault. If there's a big conflict between the world and Germany's army is the one that used and put in the front lines against Russia, then it'll just be another thing where we can say, oh, Germany over there. I don't know. It feels like it's a ploy to get Germany to take the brunt of responsibility.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It was actually that there was a little bit of hope right in the middle when our Chancellor Scholz actually said, I will only deliver heavy tanks if the US do the same. But you notice that the US actually, they might announce it today that they are delivering them. I don't know. They're transporting them over there constantly. But they did not announce it before the Germans.
Right.
So, and our politicians were stupid enough to announce it before. But there was, I bet there was tremendous pressure from NATO. Definitely.
It seems really interesting that it's kind of like, they're trying to prove they're not Nazis by being Nazis. It's the same as like trying to prove you're not gay by spanking each other in a shower room in a football game. I just don't understand how this makes any sense. Like, what are we trying to, who is this proving anything to? That the Germans are so compassionate that they can give tanks? What is the logic? I just don't understand it yet.
Yeah,
but
it's nuts.
Sorry, Raph.
So I looked up population figures recently because of MK Canada, and I realized that actually, in certain senses, Austria is comparable to Canada in terms of Germany and the US, because there's about 10% of the population. Similar with Austria. And just as a very simple superficial feedback is that I believe there were polls in Austria which said that about 90% of the people generally hold very, very dear to the actually imposed by the how do you call them, not the Axis but the
allies,
allied powers, that they're actually very happy with the imposed neutrality and want to keep it that way also in foreign relations and foreign policy, and are not at all in agreement with NATO tanks being transported apparently also through Austria, as had already happened, and heavy gear and so on, aside from the fact that of course there is at least one place in Austria which is like a CIA spy base. And the big question, of course, why is Austria and Vienna always been this spy hub? What is the particularity here? Deep state, ultra fortress, or what is it? And
even for centuries before that, though, why? Janissaries, everything about it. Good question.
Yeah. And just to say here that it really seems that it has never been more blatant that the will of the general populace and the will of the supposed representative government is so far apart as it's never been, and so blatantly obviously apart that there is only, if even that, a very small radical minority that would support these policies. But because of not going to get into what kind of shenanigans, election fraud, and so on. They actually are the representative government and are doing these things. And yeah, so it's insane, but it's the same as always. The people want peace. Government plays war against itself, to further suppress the populace. So yeah.
What was the thing I saw recently? Like the stinkiest smell in history. Okay, so this had happened twice. Once in Austria, thioacetone, the world's stinkiest smell, and there's like a huge amount of it that was created at some point in 1889 in a German factory of Freiburg, and then someone did it again in Austria. Apparently, they did this several times, causing fainting and vomiting and panic evacuation in order to completely clear towns. And so it seems to me that this is also something that plays into Austrian politics over and over again for centuries. There's chemical labs and things that are being used, and the information is being used by the military back and forth. I mean, I don't know if that's the only thing going on in Austria.
There
but
has been a huge scandal. This was revealed by Jane Bürgermeister. I will look it up now. With the swine flu, I believe, and some kind of. Here you have her, and yeah, exactly. Go Wiki's books should be good.
Bürgermeister, okay.
Baxter swine flu H1N1 pandemic vaccine approaching in 2009 warned the world the greatest crime in history of humanity was underway. So okay, interesting. What was her evidence? Where we go? Go for it.
I just know that there was at least one lab, which is in Vienna, that was involved, and then there was this huge, I don't know if it was even a press outrage, but the big question, why is there are chemical companies in Vienna involved in this? Because we have, I'm fluking on the names right now, but we have quite a few relevant biotech companies in Austria. And of course, outwardly, they're all so nice for your health. And then in the end, they make what kind of crazy chemicals,
Yeah. And so this is interesting because a lot of the time in Austria, I've heard a lot of Austrian doctors kind of promote, on one hand, Austrian medicine, people say you shouldn't take crazy drugs. You should probably try to take the natural homeopathic method. And then all of a sudden, the same thing that was going on in the United States, where pharmaceutical companies are lobbying to the doctor, starts going underway in Germany and Austria. So then then all of a sudden, the Austrian doctors are recommending these drugs. Oh, try this new drug, of course, because they got me a hotel room in Switzerland. I mean, that's going on more and more. Yeah. But also just pharmaceutical companies, where are these things made? So, Austria and Switzerland are chemical, and Germany too are major places for pharmaceutical companies.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Big pharma, Austria, Germany. Just curious what comes up if I type that.
Probably Merck.
Also, this would just leave me alone. The stupid extension
That was
thing.
The top 10 pharmaceutical companies in Germany. The second one, FarmiWeb.
I mean, a lot of these are old companies. Boehringer, Ingelheim, Novartis.
Novartis is in Austria too, yeah.
Janssen, GSK. I think I've heard that one. Bristol Myers, of course.
Roche.
And Roche. Roche is the one that actually. So I learned about Roche because they're working in nanotech, and they've built some interfaces and bought some Silicon Valley companies that were doing brain scan interfaces and DNA, RNA interfaces. So that way you could just have a complete scan of what your promoter sequences turn on and off.
Then Bayer, of course, is descended from IG Farben.
There
Pretty
you go.
bad.
Novo Nordisk, Sanofi, and Pfizer. Of course, Pfizer. So it's interesting because a lot of people, I think, would think maybe just to me, I think of Austrians and Germans as trying to take homeopathic medicine when they can, but also, this is where Pfizer's from. So it's just pretty crazy. Headquartered in Berlin, even.
Yep.
Yeah. So I can just.
BioNTech was the biggest provider of the COVID vaccine, and BioNTech is also German. So they are like a Pfizer daughter, if you will, but BioNTech, yeah, should find something there. Yeah, there they are.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. NT, BioNTech.
BioNTech,
That N.
They never did anything, and then all of a sudden they are like the main producer of this of the vaccine. Never did anything before that. Absolutely nuts.
Brilliant. Texas two-step, these companies. You remember the Texas two-step that happened with Johnson & Johnson, right? Johnson, Texas two-step. So a year ago, Johnson & Johnson got in a lot of trouble because they had, I forget what it was. It was like asbestos in their baby milk or their talcum powder or something like that. Talcum-based products being linked to ovarian cancer. And they were going to have to pay out, right? Like how many millions of people, their lives are ruined, their families are ruined. Each one of them, you're going to have to pay out. So what do? Well, you bankrupt your company, you build another company, you put all the money into that company, and now your original company doesn't have the money to pay its responsibilities. So the new company just continues on. This is called the Texas two-step. And so that's what they did. They avoided paying out for ovarian cancer. All of these people that were suffering from legally proven consequences from their actions. So it's just what corporations do.
And they have been doing that for hundreds of years, right? When the Knights Templar were actually officially banned, and the French king actually burned their boss at the stake. I think it was Hugo Pain or something like that. But they just gave themselves a different name, and today they are the Maltesians and whatever, So
right,
just a different labeling, but they're still doing the same things.
New lodges, exactly. New identities, new responsibilities. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's how they have been doing it.
So I can just give one recent example. I posted the link. Please check it out. It's in German. It's called Strophantin. And I had heard about this from different sources. It is actually apparently derived from some kind of a plant. And this one you'd have to translate. And this was up to about 40 years ago, the regular drug you would give someone with any type of heart issues. And of course, now again, heart issues, unfortunately, are on the rise for different reasons. And then about 40 years ago, they started introducing, I guess, all kinds of other drugs. And this substance was forgotten, although it is highly effective. And apparently now it's even somehow banned, or they try to suppress it and so on. And just as usual, if something is too effective, too little side effects, too natural, you can't maybe properly patent it, and people get too healthy, then, big pharma starts moving. So just one example.
This article is protected by copyright, so it won't let me copy the word. Weird.
Wow.
Profane. It up. Not a lot to say. Oh, there you go. Excuse me. Arrow poison. Stratoxanthin is a plant-derived toxic substance that was traditionally used as an arrow poison in Eastern Africa. So they're only considering this an arrow poison?
On Wiki, apparently,
hazardous substance?
Yeah, of course.
Wow. Is there anything else?
Extremely hazardous to the New World Order, like
exactly.
There you go. Medical uses. Although no longer approved for use in the U.S. and France or Germany, intravenous ouabane has a long history. Ouabane has a long history of the use of treatment of heart failure. My God! So this is just what they do to everything. But okay, if you use it wrong, it can kill you. That seems like most medicines.
Yeah. That's Paracelsus, right? It's the dose that makes something not a poison. So
this is nuts. So the total synthesis of ouabane was achieved in 2008 by the Des Longchamps laboratory in Canada. So they're doing it synthetically anyway. So it can be produced synthetically. In other words, if it is useful, here's how to find out. That's interesting. I wonder this could be, you're saying something to help with heart disease?
Yes, like heart inflammation. And even there it says the uses, even on Wiki, it's still there. I don't have the full list, but yeah, supposedly very, very effective and heavily
can clean out blocks an artery. Oh my god.
Why have we heard this myocardial infarction recently? Yeah.
God, yeah. I wonder who
Yeah.
the. Jeez, I don't know. Interesting. Strophanthin, and then it's called Awabane. Interesting. All right. So basically, dart arrows. We're gonna look into that some more. And this is the plant it comes from Venezuela. You got to wonder about that too. So, were the Jesuits the one who found this out, or did the natives use this for tens of thousands of years, or whatever it is before this? And then, when did it become a medicine in Germany? And then, why did they decide to ban it? Like all of the whole story behind all this. When and how long has it been banned? How long have they been? You said in the 90s or something they stopped doing it, or what?
About 40 years ago, from what I heard.
Oh,
That
40
they stopped
years
teaching
ago.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
And
there
no
you go.
longer on the market in the US and in France and in Germany. So you immediately know which ones are the two most controlled countries in Germany and by whom.
Yeah. And also how it sets the precedent and standard, because whatever Germany does, then Slovenia and the Czech Republic kind of say, oh, well, that's probably the way to do things. You know, it's a standard set. It's called Strychnos toxifera. So I mean, it probably could be used. Oh wait, alkaloid inhibitor of the adrenergic alpha receptors and tryptamine receptors. Interesting. So the fact that it interacts with your tryptamine receptors means that it would actually interact with, your entire melatonin, serotonin, dopamine, GABA, all these kinds of neural hormones and neurotransmitters.
Okay.
Wow. I'm utterly fascinated now with this plant. I'll have to look into it more. But yeah, don't just eat a bunch of it. It sounds like it can kill you. I don't know what to say about that.
Disclaimer, right?
We can remain depressed about the medicine. I love talking about it, and you've been putting on more and more shows about frequency medicine too, which is great. This is the direction we got to go and rediscover all the
Vitamin B6 is banned by the FDA. What's all this about? B6 banned. What's B6?
It used to be healthy, right? So probably too healthy, so they had to ban
Guys,
it.
so don't eat vitamin B6 because it's banned, I guess is how that's what we're supposed to say right now. But it's a vitamin. How many illegal vitamins are there? That's the whole idea is interesting to me. The FDA has provided a back channel by which nutrients that the human body can need to be turned into drugs. Many natural compounds are at risk. So this is probably like an ad that you can buy something that can, could be made. I mean, come on. What does vitamin B6 do? Compound.
Chemistry.
I mean, hey, Wikipedia is the worst way to find out any of this stuff.
I was about to say I wouldn't look for Wikipedia on actual health information.
But I will say that YouTube probably won't ban you for reading it, which is the really important thing here. But vegetarian, you can eat B6, plant synthesis, definition, water-soluble forms, biosynthesis. Some of this stuff's useful information, but none of it's actually, or true information, none of it's useful information. Medical uses, okay. As an antibiotic. Used for treatments of tuberculosis. Come on, this sounds great. Well, why is it banned? Safety. Adverse effects have been documented, but never in food sources. Okay, so you shouldn't just eat pure vitamin B6. Sounds reasonable. Maybe you need to have it it's part of something. Okay. But this could also, it sounds like it also can kill tuberculosis. All right, so basically, we don't understand vitamins enough, or what vitamins really are. What is a vitamin? What even is a vitamin? Organic molecule or set of molecule closely related chemical vitaminers, essential micronutrient that is an organism needs. Okay, vitamir. It is a variety of particular vitamin, one of several related compounds that performs functions of said vitamin. I mean, this seems like really ambiguous. Provitamin is a substance that may be converted in the body into a vitamin. I don't know, man. What is a vitamin? What does it really do? Organic. I don't know.
So B
properties.
vitamins in general are good for your nerves and for muscles.
This is true, and also they can kill random things, right? Bacteriophage. Vitamins apparently can kill bacteriophage, and sometimes they fight fungi. But they're also healthy for fungi, I guess, because they usually use vitamins. I don't understand exactly what makes the vitamin. What are we defining as a vitamin, and why are there so many different types of vitamin B? I think that would help if we understood exactly what it is that a vitamin is. It seems like there's a lot of different things that we're calling a vitamin here. Okay, all trans retinol, fats, hypervitaminose, too much toxic effect of the vitamin. All right, too much. If you have too much of the vitamin, then diagnosis can be difficult. Different things can happen. I don't know. So what does a vitamin do? It just seems like it's a chemical reaction to your entire system.
They definitely have a support function, right, within the body. So you need vitamin D and vitamin C to keep you healthy. Vitamin D can be produced by the body in itself. You need sunlight, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why they are pushing sunglasses. Because when you're wearing sunglasses, your body thinks it's winter, and it produces less vitamin D.
You turn orange with too much carrot. Yeah, they want you to drink carrot juice and then just wear sunglasses. That's what LA is like now.
Exactly.
I mean, so retinol binding protein, RBP4, tissue, low density lipoprotein. I mean, this is the kind of thing that leads to blood clots or to people taking blood thinners all their lives because they have high blood pressure. Yep. I think that's like the main thing I see is people not having control of their vitamin intake leads to other health problems later. They're taking weird pills, 30 pills a day or something like that.
Yeah, it's very simple. I mean, generally you can, there have been measurements, I guess, in all of at least the Western world, how the soil is deficient and, use the wrong fertilizers, usually, too much chemical fertilizers derived from the petrochemical industry to bring short-term gains, but long-term deficiency in the soil, which translates into the vegetables and the fruits that you eat, which now have maybe about 10% of what they may have had only 50 years ago. And then people run around with all the supplements, but they're oftentimes synthesized and isolated and therefore not properly bioavailable. That also doesn't help. And that, of course, all basically, feeds the insurance and the pharma industry, right? So I would say that's the basic cycle. And at least Dr. Joel Wallach, I mentioned this before, had identified about 93 essential minerals within the body. And that if, the cell water is clean and supplied with the proper nutrients, the cell just keeps running, But if it's depleted, then usually you get a lack of hydration overall in the system. You get a lack of cell voltage. And if your cell voltage is low, then you get cancer and all kinds of other things. So ultimately, it's an electrical thing, let's say. But all of the vitamins and so on act usually in support of the, how do you say it in English, Leitfähigkeit. So the capacity to, let's say,
conductivity.
Exactly, your bodily conductivity. And usually everything that increases the conductivity is also in some way, shape, or form beneficial to health. So I would say that's how it connects in the overall sense.
Yeah, I mean, most of these vitamins are things that could be naturally produced by different food sources. That's the other thing. So when we're talking about these vitamins that they're saying are banned, that article kind of alluded to the fact that just about any vitamin you can probably get something that has it in it. But also just directly by itself, it's super dangerous because you're consuming chemicals. I mean, sure, it's in a vitamin structure, but just eating lots and lots of chemicals, you can oversaturate yourself with that vitamin. So I think that's also something people are they're doing.
Yes, but the issue is that usually if you have a whole plant or at least a properly made supplement that is integrated, then you have all the supplemental things and your body can properly absorb it. It's bioavailable and it doesn't hurt you. But if you take it heavily isolated and whatever crazy amount synthesized, then of course your body doesn't know what to do with it because not a natural form at all, and then it can cause health problems. And of course the big pharma and PR departments always jump on that, are like, oh my god, you can overdose on vitamin C or something. Like, yeah, sure, yeah, good luck. But if you would have proper sources, high quality supplements, or actually high quality food, then you can't really overdose. So yeah.
That's exactly right. I mean, how are you supposed to eat 1,000 carrots?
You can feel like an eagle.
So I'm happy to stay on the health thing. Otherwise, if you guys want, we can move on to just a very short idea of history.
Yeah.
That came to me recently again, I guess. So the basic theory, and this is really, nothing new, no new fancy theory or something, but just, somehow I mulled over it in my mind and I was like, seems pretty clear. So we have all these revolutions about 1848, around that time, all the Republican revolutions, let's say. And it seems that this was one of the final stages of, I would call it, the New World Order takeover. We have the potentially New World Order Foundation or Foundation of America or Foundation of the Bavarian Illuminati in 1776. This may be the takeover of maybe until then Moorish America, for lack of a better term, and may have been, just if I look at the timeline, the preparation for the takeover of Europe. Then we have the revolutionary times of 1850 to 1870, when basically they completely turned over the states to the New World Order system. It seems that it's possible that many of these countries, even in Europe, may have been, for lack of a better term, Quranic or at least peace-loving. And if we look at the pictures in the age of photography, I could well imagine that the royal lineages were actually wholesale invented, except maybe the very, very last, just like with Kaiser Franz Josef, who I put on the links here. Also because then I looked up what you just showed, the Lenin Wall, which is basically the Starfort Wall of Vienna. And guess when they tore it down? They tore it down around 1870, which coincides with the beloved American Civil War. And strangely enough, the very same time also coincides with the so-called Boshin War, which is when they made the final power transfer from the supposed Tokugawa shogunate in Japan to the Meiji Restoration. So it just seems all very, very highly synchronized. And, usually nowadays one says, give me a picture, it didn't happen. With AI, we can't even say that anymore. But we know there is no proper photographs, even of the most important royals, before 1850. And then we look on Odyssey at something like First Lady Boys of the United States. You look at all those pictures, and it very much looks like
Funny pictures of that.
They're staged Oddfellow travesty shows, where they just were looking for actors, and then they made a bunch of pictures with all those males they had, and then just many of them had to play the first wife, first lady.
I mean, of course, they're going to take pictures of transgendered carnies before they're going to take pictures of their royals. I mean, historically, that's just priorities.
So I'm just saying, like, how much can you backdate? And everyone can make an image, and then you only need around 1850 a few new controllers. You put them in, you make some nice pictures of them, and then you make up the lineages as far back as you want, where it's practically impossible to verify, especially if we know you have all these insane asylums, all the power shifts and so on. You can hide a lot of things. And the main thing here for me was this Lenin Wall thing, which was the Starfort Wall of Vienna. And then they say militarily, because it wasn't militarily useful anymore. And by now we know the military stuff is a joke. So why only in 1870? That's pretty late. Because if I'm sitting on this, it's the first thing I'm going to tear down. So this tells me that the actual takeover of Vienna, for example, maybe didn't even happen before 1850. And then, of course, they backdate it and they say they were the Turkish sieges, this and that, blah, blah, blah.
Even if it wasn't useful militarily, like, look at France. You could still use this to hold wine or something. Like the whole idea, well, what are you going to do? Demolish a hill? Like, what do you mean you're going to take it apart? Like, why would that happen? Unless there's a reason they want it forgotten.
They want to hide it. Yeah, exactly. You want to hide it because otherwise you could say like, oh, it's still nice, or we make it a bit lower or whatever, or we make a door or something.
Make it a freaking garden. Put a paint. Unless you're trying to get rid of it. Clearly, that's the goal. That's and even a lot of effort.
Kaiser Franz Josef was known in Vienna at that time that he wanted to make Vienna the most beautiful garden city. There's even these memes online where it says like he wanted to make Vienna the nice garden city.
So like, what could be better than a snowflake-shaped garden? The whole thing is just suspicious as hell. I don't know. He definitely didn't just to say, okay, we're gonna put all of our effort into demolishing this fort.
Well, that triangle was cool.
Before I let you rail on all of that, I want to share something individual, let's say, a dream I had quite a few years ago before I knew about Tartary or anything. It was one of the most vivid dreams I ever had, where like, you know, full on in the astral realm, you can kind of feel, you have your astral body, you can move around, you're really conscious of what's happening. There's a lot happening, you know. And basically, the initial setup of this was that I was in some kind of a broadcast station, for lack of a better term, whatever we were broadcasting, information or something. And the idea was it was somewhere in Africa. At least that was my, you know, metadata I had on that in that dream. And that we were, for some reason, the last broadcasting station or the last stronghold of a positive shattered empire. And the dream was super vivid with many other details. And I just remember waking up and I was like, wow, this is the very first time I consciously had this idea that there may actually already have been a positive federation before whatever went down here. And then many years later, I only discovered about Tartaria. And what's also interesting in this dream, in supposed Africa, I also distinctively saw colonial architecture, which just means old world architecture in my dream, you know? So, and then many years later, I come to Tartaria and I'm like, oh, wow, I actually kind of had a dream about this initial idea. Yeah, we'll see how it all relates eventually.
But I think it's so wild that the colors, the Tartarian colors, you know, we have that Ceylon, this funky animal on golden ground, and that's the exact same color that the Holy Roman Empire of Germanation had, the exact same colors as the old Tartarian colors.
Where was I just looking at? Mowers, right? In Germany. German city of Mowers. Let me see. So this city here, their flag, right? Tartarian, black and yellow, and even the red and white is a thing that we've noticed for like the Phrygian, you know, so like the Phrygian are here or something like this unity thing. Not sure, but not Moors. So that's another question. Like, is it the Moors like the wall? Is that possibly what it is?
Moors, that's actually Moors. It could come from the wall. I'm not quite sure. So the wall would be Mauer, Mauer, Moors.
I would say this is basic obfuscation. You just add random letters and switch them around a little bit to make it more difficult to trace back. So,
yeah, I mean, just the idea of there being walls or something, you know, the Great Moors. I don't know. It's interesting. It's where is this here? This isn't even that far. It's kind of west Germany.
Dinslaken, Neunkirchen. Duisburg. Okay, that's along River Rhine. Yeah,
it's not too far so it's Rhine. not too far from. What's the map?
Duisburg is actually the up to today. It is the largest harbor situated at a river in Europe.
Oh.
And the modern Silk Road is supposed to end in Duisburg.
Really?
We just got a good comment from Simon Clairet, who says it sounds like the French mur, which of course is correct. And mur en français means wall. And then the other question, of course, is, are the Moors, are they the wallers, let's say? Are they the wall builders?
The Baltimore Wall. Come on. Baltimore. Never thought about that. Vault. Like a vault of a Moor. Okay. A walled vault wall. So yeah, these ideas are maybe more generally that the Moor is not a blood type, but a culture or an action. It doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, all walls are Moors or that a Moor built all walls, but it's pretty interesting to me that they're connected. I mean, like that they often like a Moor is a wall. Interesting. So
this and in German we also say Mure, no? Martin, eine Mure.
For landslide, yeah.
For landslide is a Mure, yeah. So also here it is strange connections in the words. One more, yeah, this I wanted to bring up. This was interesting about Hungary, this Kuruk army, where they even say on Wikipedia apparently half of Hungary was rebelling against the Austro-Hungarian or Austrian influence, Habsburg influence, which of
Wow.
course would just point to the idea that this was the actual, let's say, last final battle where they then
Yeah.
took over and forcibly Christianized everyone, and not in 1000 with Saint Istvan, but 150 or maybe 200 years ago. And another hint here, maybe I posted the creation links for Switzerland. And
Yeah.
they claim, of course, to have a federal charter of 1291. I mean, good luck with that. But even here, you can pull up the actual modern Helvetic Republic was only founded in 1848.
Right. Hold on,
Again,
where's that one?
same date. And I'm like,
Yeah.
even the one after that, yeah.
Well, but
yeah.
their constitution from 1848, is this not the right one? Hold on. Yeah, the restoration of Switzerland. So the thing is, the Livonian
and the restoration, because Andreas, you mentioned this in the documentary, also the restoration period. When was this in your time in America? Was it a similar time? But what are they restoring? I mean, what is this?
Terra Mariana is the thing. So there's this group of Livonians that were in this region here. I guess all over. Here's this Duchy of Estonia, Dorpat, and this is 1260 medieval Livonia, and the Teutonic orders there. And they were all over the place, but they basically rebuilt Switzerland in the 1800s. And we're also in St. Petersburg. The Livonian order were Livonian brothers of the sword. There's Freemasonry into the 17th century that's associated with them, but trying to rebuild Terra Mariana, or Land of Mary. Maryland, I think, is named really for the Livonian order of Terra Mariana.
Do you know the castle, Marienburg?
Not necessarily Marienburg.
I sent the name to you in the chat.
Oh, thanks. I see. I got close, but not quite with the spelling.
So that is not Tartarian architecture. This is actually
beautiful.
This is a different one that I was thinking of, but
oh, this is not the one you were thinking of? Hold on.
What's the one in Eastern Prussia? Try to add Prussia to that.
Okay.
I hope I'm remembering it right. It should.
But that's also more to the point that there's several Marienburgs.
The red brick castle. Look at that. It is absolutely tremendously big.
Oh wow. Yeah, and it's just interesting that there's two or more Maryburgs, the Marienburgs, that this exists. Connection also with Mary and Moors too, because there's something about Mary coming from like her. She's not from the same place as Joseph, right? Joseph. So that's another thing. Like I forget where she's from, but that's an important aspect of it. But the restoration of Switzerland, the Livonians built the Confederacy, which is why they still wear the jester clothes of Tartary, which the bright colors and the cool outfits for their soldiers for the Vatican. And the Vatican represent them. I think that's associated with protecting the Vatican or bringing the Jesuits back in. Because at that time, the Jesuits were kicked out of every country except Catherine the Great, who was in St. Petersburg, allowed them to be in part of their certain areas, including, I think, Brussels or something random like that. And then the Jesuits took over through Switzerland. So they have some sort of a deal from that point. But also, they have a new constitution since, 2000? Didn't they just change their constitution again?
Not quite sure. They do it off and on.
Well, they were, for a long time, they didn't. So for a long time, it was pretty impressive. It was like, wow, Switzerland's got this constitution since 18, and like here it is changing in 1999, April 18th. Okay, so 2 days before the birthday of the German leader, like that they had financed their banks with, they decided to change their constitution, and in it, it's basically the same thing, but there's a few more rules and a little bit more engendering, and something about the army is different. And I think it's interesting because the generation up till 1999, everyone remembers as, oh, they had to be in the army, the Swiss army, but they didn't have to fight. It's the way the Swiss army is. Things have changed a lot, supposedly. And also Switzerland brought in more indifferent people since then and have changed the rules about how they legislate different parts of Switzerland. but most people didn't even know, and I don't think they do. In Switzerland, most Swiss citizens don't know the name of their president or whatever that is, right? Because they have no power. But they do have that rule that says that there has to be a bunker for every Swiss citizen. There has to be enough room in every bunker, right? That's pretty crazy. Like there are enough bunkers in Switzerland to house every Swiss citizen. That's a lot of bunkers. So,
and they have all these. You're showing a couple of them because so they look like buildings where you keep hay and things like that, and they have these guns in there. Yeah,
well, I mean, like they have a lot of
the border.
They have a lot of abandoned bunkers too, just like because there's just so many, like the gnomes. That's the gnomes of Zurich joke, is that they're like gnomes because they built so many dang bunkers. But also, just how crazy is it that there's alien ant farm of the mountains of the Swiss Alps? I mean, that's a lot of bunkers that they've forgotten them, and some of them are big enough to hold 30,000 people. That's insane. So. I mean, look at these entrances, these random entrances. I've seen some YouTube videos. If you look up Swiss bunker hiking or tour or sneak in, people on YouTube are going and finding random forgotten Swiss bunkers all the time and climbing through them. I forgot what I was going to say about Switzerland, but just the Livonians were important for that. And I don't know exactly what happened in the 12th century. So we'd have to look that up more.
So before we go on to this, go up one more link with the Kreditschutzverband. So unfortunately, this is really only in German, but I was just like, this is maybe another interesting hint. So this is the
1870.
You get letters from these guys if you're insolvent or have some other kind of credit issue.
Protection since 1870. What the heck?
And I just basically want to know, I mean, what the F? I know there is some fluky official stories, but you didn't need credit protection before 1870? Or what's going on?
I mean, everybody did. I'm just wondering how they were able to protect credit through that many banking crises and exchanges and world government wars. I mean, that's a lot of protection. Can you imagine how this is possible?
Well, I can imagine how it is possible, yes, if you're part of the deep state structure. So, but for me, it's just an interesting date because that's when, all these companies spring up, and even I know stories about, people in Austria or other places which actually could make a large business, but who had the power to make a large business? Why was there no large business before, and all these institutions springing up around that time.
The Panic of 1873 was a financial crisis that triggered an economic depression in Europe, North America, that lasted from 1873 to 1877 or 1879 in France and Britain. In Britain, the panic started 2 decades of stagnation, known as the Long Depression, that weakened the country's economic leadership. Germany. The demonetization of silver in Germany and the United States ripples the economic dislocation in Europe. Okay, well, why would they demonetize silver? But that's probably it. First symptoms of the crisis were financial failures in Vienna, the capital of Austria-Hungary, that spread to most of Europe and North America by 1873. Imagine it took a couple of years then. Okay, so yeah, that's definitely the most important thing ever. Where's that picture? Where'd it go? I just go back to it. 1870. It's translating, right? Credit protection. What? Translate.
It did translate, but not the first paragraph.
There you go. Represents the interests of more than 30,000 voluntary members. Goal to protect the economic operators from financial damage. 1870 history. As the first European organization of this kind, the Creditor Association to protect claims for bankruptcies on April 10th, 1870, founded in Vienna by around 40 merchants and industrialists, mostly of textile trade. That's crazy. Why would that exist? Why didn't it exist before it? What kind of Freemasons didn't do this before that? I mean, we were the other day talking about Freemason guilds protecting like life insurance. Used to be a bunch of Freemasons and tradesmen. If somebody died, they took care of their fellow tradesman's family and wife, right? They had like a a bit of an insurance policy that they would work on.
Mm.
And that's been obviously changed. But why did they invent this then?
So
And here's
Gamer
an
says
article about it.
the crime of 1873 refers to dropping silver dollars from official coinage by act of Congress in that year, setting the stage for the adoption of the gold standard in the US.
So the silver standard was there wasn't I didn't know that. I didn't know that the gold standard didn't exist without silver. Oh, I guess what they're saying, because of course it did. Of course it did. But it didn't exist as a unique gold standard because the silver standard had also existed. By the end, the right of holders of silver bullion had okay, wait. General revision of laws relating to the mint of the United States by ending the right of holders of silver bullion to have it coined into standard silver dollars. Okay, so at that time, silver was worth silver. You could have it minted into silver. You could make your own money. At this point, you couldn't. You could only do that with gold. With gold, you can still do that. Is the gold standard still that way? Is that what the gold standard means? Really? I hadn't really thought of it that way. But that's what it means. A gold standard is a monetary system in which the standard economic unit of account is based on a fixed quantity of gold. So if you have that gold, you can definitely get that amount of dollars for it, no question, because it's the gold standard. Got it. I mean, I've thought of it more of just it's worth that, and we all know that, but it's a standard. It's actually like a legal point, and they don't have that for silver anymore. And silver, you would still think because you could buy it or sell it, it would probably be worth more because of this. You know, you can make it into jewelry, but maybe it wasn't. And maybe this was used to crash silver. That would make sense.
By the way, Switzerland was the last country in Europe that still had a gold coin as a regular coin using a day-to-day basis. The so-called Vrenli. I just put it in the chat. You can actually look at it. Yeah, exactly. That's it right there. And there is this woman on there, and they call it Vrenli. That's wait a minute. This is actually no. That's not it. The one on the bottom, on the below the Bitcoin. This one. Yeah, that's it. Vrenli.
Wow. It's a $400 coin, or just about.
No, it's not quite that expensive.
Is it? But is it solid gold, or what is it?
It's solid gold. Yeah, absolutely. It's 20 francs, I believe. It costs more, obviously. I'm not quite sure how heavy it is. It's not super heavy, but it should have it on there somewhere, right?
Wow. Wait. So the coin is worth more than the value of the francs?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, way more.
Okay.
Way more. That's why they took it out. Yeah.
But it wasn't at the time.
At the time, it wasn't. When we still had a gold standard, so actually it was all across Europe, you know. So it was basically you had 10 gold marks, was 10 gold francs, etc., etc. I'm not quite sure what the. No, wait a minute, it was different. Do you know, Raphael, how it was with the Ducaten, 4 Ducaten, how they were?
I don't know details.
Actually, what you do notice that the numbers might be different, but the weight of the coins is the same. If you look at a German gold coin of 10 marks, you find the exact same weight in a French coin, in an Austrian coin, in a British coin. So they might have a different denomination in numbers, but they had the same weight. So that's actually modern ones. There's one, the pre-World War I vintage German.
Wait, where do you see that? Hold
on. So they're Emperor William, the gold one. You just had it. No, not this one. This one. Yeah, that was actually 10 marks. You would need to find out how much that weighs. I forgot. And then you actually find coins in Austria that have the exact same weight, and in France and in Britain.
Weight 3.9 to about 4 grams.
grams. And now look at that for Austrian gold coin, for instance. And then you should find Ducaten. It's probably not marks. It's see, they're 10 to cotton, and now that's 35 grams, so that's 10 times, right? 10 times what we just had.
Yeah, just about. Interesting.
And so
This is also from the 1600s.
Yeah, so the gold
so
standard actually, no wonder that it worked internationally, because the weight actually was international. See right there, you see it, the 35 grams. Oh, okay, that's both ducaten. Okay, then it's no wonder. But 35 grams is actually quite a bit. Three of them are 100 grams.
Wow, 3.2 grams for one gold gulden. So there's something about the weight for sure, whether they're 10 or 1 or 12.
It's
or
1 ounce. It's 1 ounce, no? 35 grams.
Yeah, that's right. 34 point something. Yeah, it's an ounce. Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. But then, so the silver standard went away. Silver standard dropped. And then that was there probably was an inflation point. I'll have to look into what happened when silver went off. But I know that in the 1600s, when we found a lot of gold and silver, silver started to be worth more than gold for a while, because all of a sudden there was just so much gold. In the 1800s, things went back to a standard again. But then silver became, they started finding silver mines like in Nevada and Colorado and Bolivia, of course, the Bolivian silver mine, which had been going on for centuries. Potosi was at its peak, so silver probably also maybe went down in value because of inflation. Silver loses some of its punch. When President Ulysses S. Grant signed the Coinage Act of 1873, known as the Mint Act of 1873, the Fourth Coinage Act, a few people noticed a provision called for switching the U.S. from a bimetallic standard to a gold standard, according to U.S. Mint. Since 1853, people have been able to take silver bullion to the U.S. Mint and get it converted into standard silver dollar, reports the Mint. Just like gold counterpoint, silver had unlimited legal tender. In other words, the value of the coin could be minted from the silver bullion was unlimited. All right, so that's another thing. If you had like lots and lots of silver, you could just increase the amount of dollars produced. But after this, you just use a bank to do that. Before 1873, the only significant difference between the two was that silver coins had become challenging to obtain, according to the Mint. As a result, less silver was taken to the Mint for coinage. Instead, people were hoarding silver coins. So they wanted to get silver out into the population.
But interestingly enough, I think there was never a silver ban, right? But there has been gold bans a couple of times.
Yeah.
So.
Enforcing of sales, and also, in general, saying only certain people can own it, depending on certain states. Completely crazy. Silver makes a comeback. Decades later, government issued silver coins. Demand for physical silver is likely to increase by about 5% in 2019. Well, I don't know. Silver has gone up. Let's see also the value of silver graph. Silver price chart. Because I think it's gone. Yeah, it's gone up recently, but also went down in the last, let's go,
not
10 years
yet.
Yeah, it was higher 10 years ago. And let's go 2005. It's higher than it was, but it still didn't go back to that peak. So its peak was basically right after 2012, 2011.
2011, yeah.
April 2011. Oh no, because in 1980 it was at its peak. So that's pretty crazy. I don't know. Silver is probably going to become valuable to an extent, but I also think that technology's shifted the value spectrum a lot. I don't think metals have the value that they used to, or at least people are able to saturate value in trade again in other ways. So there's major value in metals, but then there's also just your average day-to-day value in trade, and they might become separate ideas finally, because for a long time they were resource based. It was like, okay, we have to work to get your resources, but you might not have to do that for so many things, for general foods. There's all these whens, but I don't get the why exactly. I think it was just because, and it sounds like it was just this trading. They wanted to make sure people were actually like trading instead of just holding the silver. So they wanted the silver out in the population. Silver in technology, silver in electronics, silver switches. I mean, silver's pretty useful. Gold's more useful though. I don't know. Let me jump to the
we can go back
also
to the conductivity and to the health effects. Both colloidal silver and gold are highly effective. So that can be reason enough why I don't want any silver coins laying around, you know, if I can purify my water for free.
Man, these ducats are really interesting. Look at this one.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's impressive. Also, the fact that it's a hexagram is kind of weird and interesting. Hexagon and a hexagram. And vice versa. The other side. Beautiful. So a ducat is a duke's coin. Okay. So that also matters. It's weird, like the Europeans have this royal elite system, but British are lower. Their height doesn't go as high as the German system. The Germans have like all of these other further titles because whoever was a German that came to Britain and took over, he was only of a certain height of titles. So he could only defer titles below that to British people. So their titles are less than some of the German titles that exist. When silver price rose to relative to gold as a reaction to the California gold rush, silver coinage was worth more than the face value and rapidly flowed overseas for melting. Despite vocal opposition led by Tennessee Representative and future President Andrew Johnson, the precious metal content of the smaller silver coins was reduced in 1853, allowing them to circulate. Until then, depositors of silver coin chose to have their bullion struck into silver coins of any denomination of 5 cents or above. The Act of 1853 lightened the silver coins from the half dime to the half dollar and eliminated the right of the depositor to have silver struck into those denominations. Depositors could still choose to have silver struck into dollars, but since there was more than $1 worth of silver in a dollar coin, it was more profitable to sell the bullion to manufacturers and jewelers, so long as the silver prices remained high. Interesting. So randomly, I have practical experience with this recently. Red Dead Online. So in the video game Red Dead, if you earn money, like it works as dollars, but otherwise they want you to buy gold. And if you have gold is worth dollars, but obviously it's not. Like gold is worth more than dollars. But in the worst case scenario, you could trade it for dollars. And it would be definitely worth at least that many dollars. But in other circumstances, you could trade it for something else that would be worth way more dollars. So that's basically how the Old West must have been. There must have been circumstances where, I mean, maybe not, but the idea that if you had a golden bar, you could guarantee that a state would give you some of that state's economy for it. So this wouldn't really matter in a small case scenario, I don't think. It might be cool if you're in a town, you could go get gold, but you'd probably trade it for something like a necklace would be worth more than a gold bar because you could sell different pieces of the gold. But if you had million bars of gold, then you could destroy an economy. I think that's what really is the important thing about this tax act. You might have had bankers or brewers or something that had amassed so much silver that they could completely destroy the economy if they wanted. They could sway it whichever direction they wanted. So they said, okay, we're no longer going to allow
also
you to
kind
do
of
that.
tells you how much gold and silver must have been floating around, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, I mean, it is. There's so much gold and silver and everyone's got it. There's all these iPhones and iPods, and people used to have more iPods than they knew what to do with. So there's a lot of gold that's just been remelted down from that period. I mean, think about all the people buying and selling the gold. What's that South Park buying, melting gold. They have like a whole like montage scene where the people buy the gold, they melt it down, the kids get the gold, the parents buy the gold off the TV. The old people see the TV commercial. They buy the gold for the kids. The kids sell the gold. The Chinese and the Indians melt the gold down. It repeats. I mean, that's how it's been going on for a while. But now it's even weirder because you've got electronics. So with electronics, they strip the electronics. They put the electronics back out. Put new plastic on the outside. I mean, they've gotten us really into purchasing and selling gold over and over again, and we don't even care because it's just part of the old iPod, right?
And according to some interviews, you can go on the streets in California and ask people if they want a hot dog or a gold coin, you know, and you don't want to know the answer.
Good question.
Even if you're not hungry.
I think you might have just summed up the point of the Panic of 1873. It's like, could you get a hot dog for it? And in certain circumstances, you probably couldn't, and so they freaked out. Man. Followed by a boom in railroad construction. See, that's what I was that's what my prediction was, though. It was somebody like that was trying to get their silver. They're like, no, you have to. I have that much money. It's part of the rules. New track were laid across the country between 1860 and 1873, much of the craze in railroad investment being driven by government and land grants and
railroad investment, you know, where they constructed or where they dug out. And even here you have Great Chicago Fire, Great Houston Fire just happening around that time. And of course, you have still the big question of the American Civil War. Here it says 1861 to 65, again, this 1870 time period. What really happened there? Could this have been the last stand of whatever opposition to the force that's now ruling America? And so my question really would be if the 1776 on the $1 bill, you know, I'll have one somewhere, is if this is really relating to the foundation of America, or if it's only relating to the foundation of the Bavarian Illuminati, you know? I don't even have it on me anymore. I have a $2 one somewhere, though. Which is
I don't even think I have a dollar bill.
Two.
There you go. Wait.
I got this on from a friend on in San Francisco on Haight Street, you know. So that's why it says prosperity, you know. Who's on it? It is Jefferson. But there is no pyramid.
Yeah, you don't see it you don't get it very often in the US because everybody likes the original Congress scene on the back. Yeah.
So there's a lot of weird stuff about the $2 bill.
You mentioned it's one guy who somehow can sell it, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask if you remember. Did you see the thing with that? So that's Steve Wozniak, who invented computers, basically. I mean, what he did, right? He worked with Steve Jobs.
Oh, you invented computers. You can print your own money. Whatever.
He did that. He printed $2 bills, and he got a printing machine, and he talks about it on Steve-O's show. We brought it up before, and apparently he's been checked out by the government several times. He said, $2 bills. He sells sheets of $2 bills that are exactly like the real $2 bills, to the point that they're technically legal tender, is what he said on the Steve-O episode. And what I just don't understand is how. But apparently, they've checked him out. The Secret Service has checked him out, and they've let him do it. I guess if you're that rich and you print $2 bills, it's just whatever to them. But he sells them. He sells them like, I think it's like, was it? He sells them for like a few bucks, like $5 a sheet or something like that, because it costs him less than that to make. I don't know how he gets away with it, but I think there's something important here, that if you can make your own legal tender, if that's even possible.
And maybe Martin, you know about this, but what I believe that now, if you actually forge the euro, you don't get in trouble for, what is the proper term? Money counterfeiting, but you get into trouble for design copyright violation. At least that's what I heard a few years ago. Yeah,
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Which of course raises the question, to what extent is the euro actually legal tender? Because, you know, it seems they always insert a new level of, based upon the system of fake legality, you know, oppressing the people, building more and more arcane layers on top until it's completely losing touch with anything. And then it's about copywriting the design, you know. So yeah.
I mean, these are I think this is about Steve Wallace here. Someone says on Reddit, a small child paid me in sequential $2 bills, right? 48, 49, 50. So I think that's what he's doing. But they say this is legal tender for all debts, public and private. And yeah, the Secret Service checked him out several times, and he's allowed to continue doing it. So if that's possible, then probably we could do it, I imagine. Granted, he's a Freemason, admitted, but I mean, there's something about that. If you're able to print your own money, there's something about that whole thing. I don't know. So there's the Tax Act. And then what was this also? You pulled up the Österreich Gulden, right?
Just some older, Austrian currencies, trying to trace it back and, determining basically what I would like to determine. I'm not expecting an answer today, but, when was the real final takeover of America or even of Europe? Until when was there an organized, maybe even armed opposition, which may well have been the Austro-Hungarian, suppression war of 1848, or maybe the American Civil War of 1870. Because, there we don't have any proper pictures anymore or anything. So who says that, the new system has been around longer than 150 years in this consistency and, wholesale version in the West? So that's kind of my question.
Yeah, it feels like, after the Civil War, after 1812, I mean, but really the 1600s, 1500s, things have already started to shift a lot. But by the 19th century, of course, they've built these new states and they've got these new histories, and people don't really know what happened before it. Still, they've got the numbers on the system. So it's like every generation's forgetting. I mean, that's what scares me about this generation right now. They don't remember World War II, and World War II people, like what they call the greatest generation, they saw so much stuff that they wouldn't believe the world today, right? And so now that they're gone, all those things that they couldn't possibly believe are happening now. And when we're gone, I can only imagine what they're gonna be able to get away with, because the less we're looking, the more it's possible, right? And so the next generation is gonna see things that we can't even imagine or fathom. That's what's going on every day.
Yeah, and just whether it's heaven or hell is greatly dependent on us,
Yeah, it's important.
It's my impression.
Man. Financial damage and liquidity. And then they did it again. So they protected them as they built this anti-silver period, then in 1900 to 1999. But like that means that this was February. The state prerogative took place the 20th February 1925. So they were prepared for the 1929 all debts and collection services in 1970. So they also survived the the European 70s and 80s. There was a major economic collapse because they started working in globalism. Japan and all these other European states, like in the former Soviet Union, started to replace them in the 80s, because of businesses. States like in the former Soviet Union. Oh, there's Echo.
It was my phone, sorry.
No, it happens. And then 2008, as part of a restructuring of business areas, information GHB, the GmbH, sorry, the KSV 1870 Forder Management founded. In 2020, the association celebrated its 150th anniversary. The Credit Structure Association of 1870 is the umbrella of the KSV 1870 group and is headed by the Presidium and the association board. Okay. Do you have a website, you think?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There it is right there.
See, here you can enter someone's someone's company ID and check if they have credits, and stuff like that. So
that's nuts, man. That's crazy.
Basically, people or businesses would go here and do that if they're not sure if they want to accept a large contract for someone. They check it and they can see if the banks still deal with them and all of that stuff. So, yeah.
Man. So it's like stability in case of hard times, but they go through several economic collapses. These are the people that survive economic collapses.
or they are the ones who engineered them. They're friends, you know.
Seems like the same idea.
Yeah, so the only other thing I posted, so this just currency stuff, and then I posted this from Chronologia, which is Anatoly Fomenko's site. And because Fomenko's books, I mean, they can be found and can be read, but this can be nice because there is just showing some images. I'm not expecting anything too great out of these now, but it's just interesting. Some collections of diagrams and so on he has. Anyone interested can check him out and look at some interesting pictures. And yeah, of course, this also relates to all the buildings and so on, all the architecture, where we know that for all the 1850 to 1900 architecture, we have these architects, especially in Europe, but also in America, that supposedly built everything. And, to me, it just raises the suspicions ever further. Checkerboard floor.
Man, these are great. What kind of animal is that? It's like freaky.
That's just a small devil. Never mind,
Yeah, exactly. Go back to sleep. On the other side.
15. So that's 2 years before Martin Luther did his Reformation.
Yeah, Dancing Plague, right?
Which I still believe he was there first, and the Catholics came in later, and then they did the satanic turnaround and pretended they are 2,000 years old.
That's exactly.
Yeah, I think the Paulation thing is important. Like whoever decided Paul was somehow the be all end all of Christianity, that plus whatever we consider the negative aspects of the Jesuits during their suppression period are probably connected. And why the Muslims are considered so different, even though Europa, Araba are connected concepts, I think it's probably because of this Paul character.
Raphael, did you post all these pictures somewhere? Or where can we find them?
This is Fomenko's site basically, and I just was like, this is nice because it's something accessible, even if someone doesn't want to read the books, can just click through those links and look at those images which Fomenko is referencing.
Did you post it on our channel or something? Well,
oh no, but I'll send you the link.
That would be great. Yeah, thanks. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible.
Awesome
stuff. It is pretty crazy. Major battles going on. Some of these are kind of like Iberians with their hats, but they have their shields too. So they're Europeans,
but to Saxon, yeah. So that's Saxony, yeah. Ludwig.
Yeah, Saxon flags. This one here. What does this say? Can you read that?
Den größten Schatz hat allem von Silber, Gold und Edelstein. So he has the biggest treasure of all silver, gold, and precious stones. Then talking about pearls.
Go down again.
Pearls, auch köstlich, was? Von Perlen gut, auch köstlich. Can't read that one. What? Als Niete für... That's actually not very easy to read. The first two lines are, then he's talking about pearls, and pearls good also.
Gottesdienst. Davon Gottesdienst. And something about God's service, and then give even more is the last part.
Something like that, yeah. But the middle one is really tricky. Als Mehtime für
Fürsten, maybe, so dukes in the middle.
Fürsten, yeah, dukes ward bekannt. So to dukes, it has been known als
So I believe
this was probably pretty funny in the 12th century.
Whoever this is has the biggest treasure of all silver and gold, more than any duke would know, and also pearls he has. And then from this, yeah, something got service, giving more and giving even more. So I don't know who this is referring to, but someone who has the biggest treasure ever and is just getting even more of it or something. I don't know what picture this is.
Well, I mean, there's this dude with God's given him this is some lord or duke, right? Some duke. Of all the dukes, he's like more dukey than the rest of them.
Yeah. The dukest of them all.
Yeah, that seems like what they're trying to infer. I mean, and then this stuff is pretty crazy.
Because we have it here again.
Is this a dead goat or
no. This is generally would be the golden fleece, but this is what you always see also on the Habsburg, always below. And I'm like, aside from any, if you look at Habsburg coat of arms, aside from any like pseudo religious blah blah, isn't this just like the shepherd or the slaughterer or someone? And below it, he has the sheep hanging there, dead. You know?
I mean, it's terrifying. That lizard that's like an alligator made of corn that's about to eat the lizard.
That could actually be the Tartarian animal down there, the Silan.
God, the baby's not allowed to see, but he's gonna beat us to death with his fascies. Look at that. And then, okay, wait, which is the animal? This thing? You think
this thing, I think that was on the flag of Tartaria, yeah.
It keeps shrinking when I try to get closer. Wow. Yeah.
Looks like it, doesn't it?
Right. It does have that. I mean, it seems also conscious, somehow like more aware, like a bird or something, like a almost human intelligence. Very strange. I mean, the blindfolded Lady Liberty kind of baby thing always freaks me out.
You may want to check out.
There's no reason to do that to the baby.
Oh yeah, maybe want to check out the last link, because maybe Martin, the lindworm. This is well known in Carinthia, and on this wiki page they actually show a lot of flags too. And just scroll down; it can be interesting to look at the flags.
Oh yeah, wow.
Oh okay.
But there's many. Go on the page. There's a lot. If you like, go on. Yeah.
Wow.
Dang. In Beatenberg, it's literally called Beatenberg. I love that one. That's the best. I want that T-shirt. Really, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean,
this is all in Germany.
Wow.
This is all Germany.
So that should be Saint Gregor, right? Killing the dragon.
Well, it could be any person killing any dragon. Let's be open-minded, right? Yeah, black and yellow though. It kind of sticks out more and more. And also the thing about New York is that their licenses and their interest in black and yellow.
That's like the Berlin Bear.
But what is this? He's eating the cross? Or he's getting stabbed by the cross?
Or his tongue is a cross? Or he's getting stabbed by the cross. I don't know. Or it's coming out of him? Like he's the foundation for the cross?
That's the Paramentus sitting in the basement of the Vatican.
Yeah, because it does look like a sword, because his mouth, the way it's angled, it makes it look like it's pointy like a sword. But he's biting on it. It's the sword cross. This guy in a sword. And I also feel like, the Spanish have a lot of really similar art, but usually instead of a dragon, it's a Muslim guy. Like the dragon represents a lot of the time.
Really?
Yeah.
I was waiting for that actually, for that reference. Okay.
Spanish, more like statue.
Because then the dragon could be Baphomet again, no? As in a simple way. Like the dragon is a devil, is the Baphomet, is the Babamet, is the Mahaemet, no?
Horseback killing more statue. Things like this. A lot of these statues all over Spain. It's like a dude on a horseback decapitating a bunch of Moors. They'll have him in churches a lot. Like this guy built the church. He's so cool. Like this is basically like a place that used to be Muslim and he made it Catholic. Look at the statue of him with, and it's like what it's supposed to worship in a church that has a dude cutting off the heads of other people. That I don't know if it's supposed to. Don't worry, he didn't really do it. They'll say, it's just a metaphor for how he built the church. So, like that's even worse. Like I mean, like it's actually weirder. Yeah, now I don't know what's going on, and now I think it probably did happen that way. If you say it didn't happen, now it's probably like word for word, right? I don't know. And then the Picasso thing. So yeah, maybe the dragon is like somehow related, or the somehow things have changed over where we're fighting each other instead of fighting the enemy or something.
Because even with Russia, has the same symbolism, and I think even initially the Duchy of Muscovy or something, which may have been, like you said, with Catherine the Great, the refuge for the, let's say, New World Order suppression power. David Ewing Jr. mentioned many times the Inquisitions also in Russia, the burning of supposedly Arabic books, the Arabic script on the crowns of the czars and the garments and so on. You have all the propellers on their stuff, even on their currency, right? So just in a very simple sense, wouldn't this just be like the victory lap logo of the New World Order, where they're like, yeah, we put the sword and the dragon in the devil we don't like, which was the previous Tartarian, Moorish, whatever civilization.
No Klagenfurt. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it does harken though to a time that people think of as impossible to believe in, which is so fantastical and magical, but it's also exactly what every movie kind of supposes, this dinosaur and human interactivity time. It's not that long ago. There actually are still remnants of whatever period that are non-human. These dragons, I think it really speaks to the idea that there were non-human animal that were intelligent, that were large. And, this is obvious. This looks like an alligator. It's not unlikely that we were dealing with this in Europe. We are dealing with this in Florida right now. So, but probably it seems like it's a bigger deal if they've got them on top of their roofs and things.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, it says that Europe was warmer probably until there's like this ice age. Because it would have been harder to survive as for cold-blooded animals.
A lot of those in Bavaria, from what I can see till now.
Yeah, exactly.
Mono, yeah. I used to be there with the German army. Mono. There was actually, we had that on our military insignia. The one before that, the green one. Yeah, that one. That's exactly what we had on our military insignia for the battalion there.
Interesting. Yeah, I really wonder.
I have that somewhere around here, but I couldn't find it very quickly.
I was looking at this one. I like it. Red, white, and blue. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
really practical.
Exactly.
Oberschweinbach. There's my translation button.
Fürstenfeldbruck, okay. That's west of
Munich. It's in Munich. Yeah. Interesting.
So since we're on the military bragging side, I also got some of those. No one would ever imagine I went to the military, but look, this even proves I got a promotion.
Oh, wow.
It's not so hard, it's regular. But what I want to get at is this insignia, which was where I was stationed. And here again, you can see it's 1867. And then, of course, the question, I mean, we still have many with the snakes and the dragons, but then all these eagles come in. And basically, I still want to know what it really means, but just to point out the date in particular. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what's sticking out to me is this idea that dinosaurs are birds, right? Dinosaur, bird, wiki. Every wiki page will say that dinosaurs, origins of birds, etc. So really, we're talking about the evolution of reptiles in some respect, whatever evolution even really means. We're just talking about various kinds of reptiles. Birds are reptiles, so it is weird, but it is what it is. So that everything goes from dragons into feathered lizards. Okay, I mean that's like the deal. See if I can find examples of that as well. Feather origin, evolution, maybe is the way to do it. I mean, this is supposed to be the idea is that there's a missing protein that happened because of starvation or something. I don't know if it's true, but that's what they taught us in school, that eventually starvation caused mutations of missing proteins that cause the molting process. So what is normally considered shedding an entire body of a lizard, that wouldn't have happened normally because of this mutation, which would have caused this molting of the shedding process, which would have basically created feathers. I don't know if it's true, but that's what they tried to say was the reason.
It's a great idea if I'm gonna survive evolutionary biology for hundreds or thousands of years. If I'm starving,
it wouldn't be hundreds of thousands of years. It's not hundreds of thousands of years.
Oh, it's instantaneous.
It's like it's a horrible like season. You've got a mutation, and that's that, and then that's it. The things that survived after the mutation, I don't know if that's exactly correct. Maybe there's better excuses out there. Maybe it's that lizards are literally turned into birds by God. But what's interesting is that birds have lizard-like genetics. They're cold-blooded a lot of the time, right? Birds wiki. Let me just go to wiki page really quickly. Birds dinosaur. Birds are feathered theropod dinosaurs, right? So on whatever level that we decide what dinosaurs are, diverse group of reptiles, right? So that's the official definition of them. So birds are considered reptiles in the modern cladistic sense of the term. Cladistic approach to biological classification, which the organism is categorized in groups based on hypotheses of most common ancestry, which is derived from genetics. That's all they got, really. I don't know.
We have another hint from chat from Hominidae Theodosia about the Ishtar Gate. I posted the link. This has some, I don't know if I can see much. We need to look at high resolution pictures. But this is actually, I think, on a Paulo Coelho book or something.
I love this place.
Oh, it's in Berlin now. Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's been in Berlin for as long as I can remember. Yeah, I remember as a kid, I think 2001, we went there, and it's cool because you can get this like headset, or it's like a held microphone walkie-talkie thing, but it'll speak to you in whatever language. You point at the thing you want to hear about, or I think maybe you have to type a number. I don't know. They have it in everything, those museums are. But they, hand by hand, stone by stone, rebuilt this Babylonian temple in a mall, basically, in a tower in Berlin, and made it possible for people to see the Tower of Babel model. They've got all sorts of different amazing things. They've got these statues, this is what it's like in there. It's great. It's actually like probably the coolest thing that you could possibly do. The thing is, I just watched that movie, though, that cartoon Gargoyles. Do you ever watch Gargoyles? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
In the cartoon Gargoyles, they have this rule that you don't go bring gargoyles above the clouds, or else they're going to come alive. And then we go into this Babylonian temple that's like built in like a skyscraper. Like you have to take an elevator to get to the Berlin Museum of the Babylonian temple. I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Like they're really doing it. They're trying to figure out if they can do some weird sorcery. But also their map of the Tower of Babel. I remember also that was the first time I saw the map of the Tower of Babel, and I was like, wait, that's a ziggurat. That's not nearly I always thought the Tower of Babel was supposed to be taller than, the Twin Towers. Which, this was like October or September of 2001. So it was right before the Twin Towers came down also. So it was weird. It's like went and saw the Tower of Babel, and I was like, that's not very tall at all. That's like a single Tower of Babel model. I can find it. It's not very impressive, really. Here, I think it was more like this. Yeah. This is their model of it. And I was like, what? I thought the Tower of Babel was supposed to be like into the clouds, and it's not. It's this little tiny thing. So it makes you think, well, was there like a rocket or a space elevator, like some sort of a graphene tether? What was it an antenna? Like, what were they doing with this tiny tower that supposedly could reach the gods? Like, how were they reaching the gods with this tower? I don't know. Yeah, what's it called? The Perga something? Great museum.
Pergamon, yeah. That also has what is that? The Pergamon altar, right? Supposed to be the altar of the devil.
Wow.
That one right there. Yeah.
This is the altar of the devil?
That's what they say, yeah.
Dang. I remember sitting on this thing. No idea that it was the altar of the devil. I mean, it's a cool, like, it's an amazing museum. Why is it supposed? Why is it the altar of the devil? What is the reason for
Don't
that?
ask me. I don't know exactly why. Just try to Google it. Maybe it tells you. I don't know.
Pergamon Museum altar. Construction.
Oh, you muted, Andreas.
I told you it's the altar of the devil. It turns off your voice.
That's amazing. That's pretty crazy. Wow. I don't even okay then. So basically, yeah, it gives me the spooks. But it's supposed to be like, okay, the Celts gods believed it to be about death. This is a way to walk up to bring the body or to be left in front of the altar, if you're going to burn somebody. I mean, that's insane. The Acropolis of Pergamon, larger than life sculpture of Attalus. So I guess maybe the reason it's also scary is because originally it was built to be an altar to a god for a king who died anyway, and then for centuries it was nearby the graveyard. That's kind of, I mean, maybe that's too chill of an explanation, but it sounds like the reason that it was so scary is because it was haunted, but also because they no longer worshipped his god. I don't know. Maybe also because his god asked you to like sacrifice children, and all the weird art has snakes on it, so that doesn't help. If you wanted, like 100 years later, someone's gonna be freaked out. But also, that's the thing. These stories are that people were living with these things for just like 1,000 years, constantly surrounded by the statues, and I don't know if that narrative makes sense at any point anymore. It's more likely that this is found in 1880. This is the drawing of the map in 1881. Are we sure these things are really built in 228 BC? That's the question at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if they're from like 14 or 16 or something like that. Man, beautiful work though. A lot of snakes.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Structure 35.6 meters. Olympian gods.
When was this reconstructed? There, when it says in 1878, or
no, they excavated in 1878. Transferred to Berlin, placed on display, maybe in the period. I don't know. I think it was where does it say? Berlin.
Right around that time when they suddenly found all those ancient civilizations everywhere.
1910 to 1930, built by German Emperor Wilhelm II. Well, thankfully, it was done by 1930. I think that's why you're allowed to keep it. But
yeah, probably.
As part of the museum island complex, the Pergamon Museum was inscribed on the UNESCO
and it
World
says
Heritage List.
It's home to Antikensammlung, including Pergamon altar, Asiatic Museum, and a museum for Islamic art. Interestingly enough, it's together.
Wow, and the way it's written and not selectable in English, they're just like, shut up, don't look into it. Okay. How about some pictures though? And there's the Wikipedia.d day. Like, yay. I mean, that's an interesting. It looks like Guggenheim and a mosque had a building. Brutal. This is the building?
That's in Qatar, it said.
Weird.
Qatar, don't.
Maybe this is a misunderstanding.
Travel house.
No, it says museum. Oh yeah, okay, it's a guitar museum, but it's owned by the Berlin Museum. Interesting. That's the translation. Museum of Islamic Art in Doha, located in the southern end of the beautiful Corniche, and must not be left out. Okay, so it's a German-owned museum in Qatar on Islamic history. So the German museum keeps the Islamic ruins safe? Is that the plan? Because they know how to do that so well? Because they did so well taking care of the Babylonian temple? Is that the plan? Wow. And that kind of makes sense. So my East German exchange student's dad was an architect in East Berlin, and they did things where they would hold together things with wire suspension a lot because it was both cheaper and also safer. And they were used to keeping old things together this way. So maybe that's what they're doing, is they're bringing in Germans to build this, building around like these old pieces to make sure that the pieces are in the place that they were or something, or easiest maintained. Wow, it's very beautiful though. Interesting. What was the other one you're looking at?
Oh yeah, no, this I just brought up because I wanted to look it up. I recently had quite a few conversations with David Ewing Jr. Last one's gonna be published soon.
Oh, nice.
Completely melting down my brain yet again. And there will be a screenshot where it actually says that the World Trade Center was initially built as a, quote, mosque for commerce. That's what I wanted to bring up. But here, it can't find it anymore. But here they just show that it's this supposedly Japanese architect. And David has more to say about it, but it'll be published very soon. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the reference with the mosque. Now they only talk about having a mosque, a new one, near the World Trade Center and making a huge deal about it. But they don't talk about this original definition of the World Trade Center as a mosque for commerce. So, yeah, another rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'll have to look for that. That's a crazy idea, though. I mean, I can imagine it being done, but dang.
Also the involvement of the Bin Ladens and so on, and the whole construction, and then you have the insurance fraud, many layers.
Man, the whole thing.
I mean, I can't look at him, but like whatever his parents did, or I don't know who's the industrialist.
Every time I see Bin Laden, I do this every time, but all I do is I think about Final Fantasy. Like the fact that he liked playing video games just blows my mind. Like the CIA pulled out a list of his favorite video games, and he liked Naruto.
But that's like a perfect PR. That's a PR stunt. Come on.
No, I think it's the other way around. I think what it is the other way around. It's that you find out that everyone's supposed to pretend this dude is this like weird Middle Eastern guy, when really he lived in America, and he's like just your average school shooter or something. He's a rich kid that's just crazy and part of this deep state, and he was not just that different than everybody else. He's into the same crap as everybody else and liked playing video games. And they put him up as a puppet. I mean, I think that's what it looks like to me. Like he's not even really this like very different religious character. He's just at some point. I mean, also he's like a 6.5 foot tall dude on dialysis run by the CIA. He's not that different than George Bush Sr.
He's a prop, and I just sent you the Quora. I just sent you the Quora article. You can see, and there's a picture there. I guess it shouldn't be too censored or something. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, this is exactly my point.
So he's like an American boy. He likes playing Final Fantasy. Yeah, I'm surprised,
Thank you. There you go.
Sorry, just want to make it clear for everyone who's not as arcane as you.
That's the picture I was thinking of. I appreciate it. I don't know. It's just a lot. It's a lot to think about. But I don't know. There's also some ancient origin thing. Let me see if we can pull that up. I'll pull back. Ancient origin. Go back. They found this new tomb near Luxor, and the Azores mystery stuff. There it is. It's open there. No, I accidentally close it. There are bicycles. Stop. Okay, are the misty peaks of Azores remnants of the legendary Atlantis? So, what do you think about this idea that 800 miles due west of Portugal, maybe there's a new lost civilization thing. I don't know if it's necessarily Atlantis, but there is another like circular city ring, and there's a bunch of these other. What do you think? Maybe there's another. This just seems like they're finding more and more examples of Tartarian artifacts, and they're saying that this is Atlantis, that's Atlantis, and that's the only place, and we should leave all the other ones behind.
It's all cover up. Yeah. Distraction.
Still, it's cool. I mean, I'm glad that they're at least
absolutely.
bringing. I'm glad they're bringing up at
Absolutely.
least one place. Let me see what they showed on the Azores. Also, if there's anything when they pull up the Azores officially. Cool flag. Goat, pig, cows. Was that cows? Little cows.
Mhm.
And maybe just to top it off, because I keep coming back to the point, like, why are we even doing this? You know, not only that there's no more unnecessary sacrifice of sentient beings of whatever kind, but also because we actually want to know, you know, the proper geography here. And at least for me, I want to explore, if not the underground also, but at the very least the surface of this, whatever we are at. I send you a few pictures in Telegram. Maybe we'll give you some time to, if you can pull them out. These are quite interesting maps. Maybe to Martin, I already had sent them. Also related to the idea that David unearthed or is repopularizing the concept that apparently Mecca is exactly in the middle of the known world, let's say. So in terms of the borders of the continents, and then also in the middle point of the continents. And then I was immediately thinking, okay, what is the third, fourth layer of this? And there is just some maps. Supposedly one of them is also hanging around at the United Nations or something. And then I always think of the UN flag, you know, with the grid of the known world. That's what they control. You can't go past it. But there's these interesting maps. So I wanna check out those places.
Interesting map at the UN. Yeah, I gotta show this to everybody. This is the map hanging at the UN. I gotta look at this also figure out where at the UN this is hanging. Interesting. Wow.
And of course that concept, yeah.
What is this on the left? Is the left one supposed to be the moon?
It's the moon, yeah.
The moon, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the idea with if it's possible that the moon is somehow a negative of this plane, surface,
Earth.
whatever.
Okay. In the last 3 years, the president of Portuguese Association of Archaeological Research, Nuno Ribeiro, has been claiming that archaeological remains of the structures discovered on the several Azorean islands are pre-Portuguese origin. Together with the Portuguese archaeologist Anabela Ioquinto, he has identified dozens of similar pyramid structures. I mean, so that's the thing that's interesting. Summer solstice line pyramid structures. If there's pyramids, and also this idea that we don't know where all these different islands are, but we know at least where the European central civilization is. And there's those places like Portugal. Portugal has built, you know, it's a small island or a small coastline. It's built a lot of islands into part of its empire all over the world on all different sides. If we can figure out all the other places that they have the same kinds of architecture, and we can prove that our architecture is built by a pre-Portuguese civilization and what that civilization is, that might be a pretty useful thing. That might tell us more than we realize about Tartaria. Because what is that pre-Portuguese civilization? I wonder. I think that's going to, you know, tell us, especially if they're in communication with each other. And that looks like what's going on is that everybody has in communication. The Germans are able to have these boats, and we're finding the same kinds of boats. And if that's the next question. Really,
and the Portuguese are also the ones that officially reestablished trade with the Japanese, right?
Right, and you know there are Basques in Portugal that have been kind of culturally pushed out, and there were witch hunts to kill so many tens of thousands of Basques. But when we find out that the Basques have the same grammar as the Japanese, and that calls into question: did they establish something new with Japan, or was Japan and Turkey already in an agreement? And at that point, Japan had already been working with, you know, the Basques, because the Basques, they've got the same language up until their vocabulary is stolen from them. Then there might be something where they've been just trading back and forth to evade winter. You've got on every winter, you're saving the other country's food. They have an endless summer of trade. It makes perfect sense. Maybe it's not this huge network. Maybe it's between two separate colonies, but that's still pretty useful. because otherwise you might starve in wintertime in certain places. You can't always be in the equatorial regions. Equatorial regions have all kinds of problems in themselves. They have storms as well. So it makes more sense to settle one place that you're normally, it's safe in the wintertime. You just leave it there and you come back to it the next summer after you've gone through spending that winter in another place this summer. I don't know.
That map has Lemuria on it, right?
Yeah, I was just noticing that. I was like, what the man?
Yeah.
This is a good map.
Mm.
Thanks a lot, UN. Teresa Vesta. I'm seeing there. Well, is there anything else? We're about 2 hours deep. Is there anything else you want to make sure we share before we set up for next time?
Yeah, there's a few more things always, but I guess it's good. We're good for now. Yeah, thanks for holding out, everyone.
We never know. There's a couple of things I was thinking of. Let me go to the Act Like You Know channel because obviously there's some videos there.
Oh yeah, there's some new David videos.
Right.
Highly recommended, of course, as always. And there will be yet another one, which I'm just about to finish.
And
So
the David
everyone who
videos are in English, right? So people can
of
understand
course.
them.
Yeah. Everyone who wants to get their brain melted, listen to David a bit, and it's gonna do the trick. And we're still on the question, of course, what's really happening with the churches. The closest thing by now seems to be water pumping stations. Again, referencing Kaiser Franz Josef, the Austrian emperor, because also around 1870, again, he built the very famous so-called Wiener Hochquellwasserleitung, which is the Viennese water supply, which is so famous and so great and so on. But then you look at all these churches, you look underground, and they all have these huge water reservoirs. Or you look at water pumping stations, and inside they basically look like mosques, So, and according to David, in the Quran, it actually says that Solomon or whoever had these advanced civilizations and built these stations potentially for water boiling with the domes and so on and so forth. And they may all have been industrial buildings, but only recently redecorated, put statues in, put ornamentations on, put some crazy priests in, make it a church, and then, obfuscate the fact that it was industrial or water pumping, even though many of those buildings still or have been for a long time in use as water pumping stations specifically. And probably I can only assume had some kind of energy purpose as well, because we talked about the oil, but also here we know we are highly dependent on all this oil, and the prices now in Germany and Austria are still completely insane. And, there's an agenda behind this as well. But even here, why did we even need all of this oil? Did we have some other way to heat before or create energy or something? Yeah. So hope to find it out.
All right. And then also, let me pull up the Telegram.
Tartaria 777. Tartaria without the R in the proper spell.
The proper spelling, exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. How do I do this easier? Telegram.com and then just do / Does that work?
At Tartaria 777.
It's a way to do this.
T.me. I posted in the chat. I have it in the chat.
Yeah. T.me. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that works. T.me for a Telegram.
The old world leads us into the new. That's what it
means. So open Telegram button, and then that lets you can actually download Telegram for your computer. Actually, it's pretty sweet. Telegram's the best secure communication tool. So as far as I can tell, it's the most convenient for most people. Try using Telegram, and you can join these groups, and there's actually ways that you can translate it. So that's also pretty sweet. I've been paying attention to what's going on in the group. It's growing pretty fast. It's actually almost at 3,000 members. So pretty sweet. Interesting place with lots of juicy tidbits and Easter eggs.
And maybe just to finish up, because Martin is actually on the forefront, maybe also some people listening, welcome. Maybe just briefly you want to share about your recent presentations or something, or the feedback that you got, or what people are saying.
I
Yeah,
actually
sure.
had just last weekend. I had a presentation in Forchheim, which is about a half hour south of here, and got lots of good feedback. So it was lots of fun. I connected Tartaria to the Hermetic laws because, and my how would you say? I actually supposed, or what is these
Pro-
in?
Proposed or
I proposed, yeah, I proposed that I believe in Tartaria you had a global culture where lots of things actually still worked. So they used electromagnetism for the health of people and to exactly, that was that was my channel, right, that you just had. And so they used the Hermetic laws for the benefit of the people. Today, the deep state is using the Hermetic laws against the people. And that's the big difference. So that I talked about that a little bit. It was lots of fun. And we will actually have a big congress coming up. You just showed the picture there somewhere. It was Frank and Mark down there. Right there. And that's actually, we actually had 2 shows on Oki Talk. That Raphael is very familiar with because he found me there when I was talking to Thomas Bachheimer. And we will have a congress in the end of February in Kirchheim, Hessen, which will be quite exciting. There will be lots of people presenting. So Joe Conrad, for instance, will be there. He's very famous in the German woken up scene, and many other guys. So we're looking forward to that.
And maybe Andreas, just pull up the last link, because that's the one show we actually did with Martin where he's presenting it. So everyone interested in what Martin just said, we have Hermetic Metric of Tawdry, where you did at least the basic first version of that presentation in English.
Yeah.
So,
man,
so
it's
we
a long
have
time
that.
ago.
Yeah, but just so English speakers know, they can check it out, and everyone else, of course, if you can, check out the conference. And I'm really happy that we get, some connections going. Thank you, Andreas. Thank you, Martin. I'm super happy about this because, together we'll find out, and we can do a proper, reconstruction there, I say.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Yeah,
great
super
to see you
awesome.
guys.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll do this again very soon. I'll see you next week, and I can't wait to look into the next content. So also, yeah, with your conference, I hope that we record that. So that sounds like it'd be kind of an interesting thing to share with the world.
We will record that, definitely. Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll see you next week.
Take care, guys. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarian.
Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.